Good morning.
Good morning.
So you didn't have your vitamins this morning, I take it, or maybe no coffee. Let's try again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's try one more time.
Oh, come on.
Good morning.
One
All
more
right,
time.
teacher.
I'm looking at you, Larry. Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
Okay, now I could hear you that time.
Turn your hearing aid
So I'm going to start out with the most important thing. I always try and make sure we get the priorities done, and that is to just tell you all, thank you. I appreciate that you spend your Saturday mornings with me once a month. This organization, TMG, the MAC Group, it wouldn't exist without you. You're the most important part of the organization, and I am deeply appreciative that you give me some of your time every month. Thank you.
We're not loaning you any money.
Hmm?
We're not loaning you any money. That's good. Is that
But my money guy just started to talk about RMDs. RMDs.
What's our?
Required minimum distribution. Now I'm understanding all these older people that buy the Harleys.
Yeah, right.
The frivolous people that go on around the world cruises. Okay. Is it something I said right? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to wait just a minute because we got some late people. Some folks are turning a little bit late. We want to get started. I got a spot for you in the front, Rich. I got a spot for you in the front. Okay, all good?
Could ask me.
Okay, so now we're going to start. Did everybody get their little Apple pen? When you came in, if you remember, when you came in, did you get an Apple pen? Okay, that's good. So, news. This was the month when Apple released all of these new operating systems. And some of them, like iPad, iOS 13, they enjoyed the process so much they did it 3 more times. Because you had iPad OS 13, and then you had iPad OS 13 point something, point 1, then it was point 11, point 12. They didn't quite get it right the first time. Mr. Cartwright, is WatchOS out now, the new one?
Yep.
Okay.
There's another one about to drop.
Mac OS Catalina is out, Mr. Georges? Okay, so that's out. And the iPhone OS 13 is also out. So all of and Apple TV OS is out. So they released all of these new operating
There's
systems.
one missing still, Bill.
Say?
There's still one missing. They didn't release the update for the HomePod, if anybody cares. Yeah. That one's
Okay,
not
is
been
that the
released.
thing that looks like a trash can, but it just makes noise and listens to you?
Your favorite device. It's not, that update has not come out yet. It's the only one that's still not dropped. And then 13.2 and iPad 13.2 is in beta and will drop in the next couple weeks.
Okay. Have you decided how we're going to handle all the new operating systems in terms of presentations?
I want to do a presentation on it, just haven't figured out when to do it. Okay.
Because I'm
Probably
thinking,
December.
one of the things we were discussing is maybe having one-on-one classes on the operating systems, getting the one-on-one stuff going. So think about that for a little bit.
My iPad only has 12.4.2, but it's up to date. It just got
Okay, so it's one of the iPads that is not eligible for the new operating system. see, I'm trying to think of what else. There was a minor kerfuffle. Again, I apologize, this has got a political cast to it. And I apologize, the 20-something years that I've been running this organization, but this actually impacts computers. Trade deal with China, okay? So there's a trade deal that has sort of been reached. So I just want to remind you that almost all of Apple Inc.'s production is done in mainland China. Almost all of it. Okay, some assembly is done in Ireland, but for the most part, everything is done here. So when you saw things like there was this kids, it's not kids television show, but there's this cartoon show, South Park, and they did not apologize to the Chinese government, no way, no how. But other organizations like the NBA have apologized. Apple, because they really are in a dangerous situation if they offend the Chinese government. It's like they have no production. They follow a very, very careful line. Now, I never thought in my life that I would hear that Tim Cook was best friends with the current President of the United States. But these two have cozied up like you would not believe. And it's all because he needs the United States government on his side. This is Tim Cook I'm talking about. When things happen with China. And he needs the United States government on his side when they start doing tariffy things. So just be aware that that's why Tim Cook is doing what he's doing. Remember, he's a businessman first. He's chief executive officer of a tremendously large company. Hey Rick, are they up to $1.8 trillion market value?
They're at their biggest. Yesterday they crossed the highest that they've ever broke the record yesterday. It was 1.14 or 1.3. It's somewhere in that range.
But they're like, in terms of market value, they're the most valuable company on the earth. And they could go GE with just saying the wrong thing to Pooh Bear. Okay. So did you know Winnie the Pooh caricatures are forbidden in the People's Republic of China? Because some strange person thinks that Winnie the Pooh looks like the current leader.
Oh my.
If you watch South Park, you can keep up with China really. It's very straightforward and very real.
So one of the things that you're seeing, a good benefit, is less reliance of companies on manufacturing in China. They're diversifying out, which is good. It's always good to have more than one source. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, always good to have that. But the other thing is, I'm hoping that with this new agreement, we're going to see less of the precursor chemicals for fentanyl.
Yes.
Okay, coming in, because the fentanyl that's been coming into the U.S., our fentanyl crisis, that's coming from mainland China. Okay, the precursor chemicals are shipped into Mexico, they mix them up, and they send them across the border. The other thing is intellectual property, the theft of intellectual property. And there's a couple people in the room that have expertise in the aerospace industry that know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of some of the things they've done there. Okay, so that's it for politics for another 25, 26 years. Okay. Does anybody else have any new things that they want to make sure the membership are aware of? Going once, twice. Did you know that Spectrum is raising their internet price another $4 a month?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We just paid the bill.
Yeah. So it's going to be up above $70 now. Okay, I can't read that far.
Today Daily News, and the favorite computer brand is Apple.
Okay,
Oh my gosh.
okay. I'm supposed to be surprised with that? I'm wearing an Apple pin.
What did you say? I couldn't hear.
He said, that was Rod Byler, he said that Dayton Daily News had an article that said the favorite computer brand in the world is Apple. And as long as they do the keep it simple, I think they'll succeed. It's by, oh, it's from Clark Howard. Wow, that's weird. Clark Howard has never liked an Apple computer. Okay, anyway, so moving right along. Freebies wanted for sale. The freebies were the Apple pins. Because we typically, just so you know, this stuff doesn't happen by itself. Mark Georges pesters the folks in Cupertino continuously. And once a year, when they get ready to clean out the warehouses, they finally relent and they send them stuff. So that's how we got the pins this month. Yeah. I can't hear you.
Donuts.
Oh, thank you. There are no donuts today.
I noticed.
We noticed.
Okay. Last month, I had 2 dozen donuts, and we had like 2 of them got eaten. Okay. So I thought this month, no donuts, but I'd say, let's just take a vote. Traditionally, we've had 3 dozen donuts every month, and then I noticed they weren't eating them. So you know who eats them. And so I cut it down to 2 dozen donuts. How many of you like having donuts at the meetings? Okay. Do you think 1 dozen donuts would be enough? If you think yes, raise your hand. Even if you don't want the donuts. Okay. So we'll go to 1 dozen donuts. Are you still okay with Bill's Donuts? Or do you want me to go Dunkin' Donuts?
Bill's.
Bill's is close to your house, so use that.
I think McDonald's has donuts. We could get donuts from McDonald's.
No.
I can drive out to Springfield. We could do Schuler's.
Support the local bill.
I'd be a little late for them. Okay, so 1 dozen donuts, Bill's Donuts. That's the motion. How many ayes?
Aye.
How many nays? Okay, it's unanimous.
How long is it gonna be before you get back?
How long is it gonna be until you get back? She's gonna go right.
When I first started going to Bill's in 1982, it was just the locals, and you could get in and you could get out. When you see tour buses parked, yeah, and so now they have a line. They got the marquee police type line, and you got it. So it takes me more than 5 minutes to get my donuts on a Saturday morning. I got to sort of get in there early before the crowd. Okay, but I do that for you folks, again, because I'm so appreciative and thankful for what you do for me. Okay, so with that said, let's move on. Do we have anybody that has freebies that they've brought that they're making available to people? No freebies. Okay, do we have anybody who's selling stuff? Going once, going twice? Okay, Dan.
I've got 2 iPad cases, they're both for, I think it's 2nd generation, the previous set. One is just almost like a smart case with a shell with a cover on it. The other, I've had so many people comment on my book case for my iPad. This is my old one, so it's for version 2. A little bit different, but if you're interested, let me know. And that's for the iPad Pros. And then still looking, I've got a Wemo switch, smart switch for if you want to smart your outlet and control your outlet with your phones. And then some other miscellaneous stuff, so see me if you're interested.
Okay, so see him at the break if you're interested in any of those things. All right. Going back to old business, several months ago I talked about us starting what I was going to call the Cable Club. where I would have cables available for people. This would be USB cables, firewire cables, power cables of different types. And I didn't hear any response, positive or negative, on that idea, so I thought I would put it forth again. Would you be interested in having something like that? With the idea being that you bring your excess cables in that you don't think you need anymore, or that you think you might need, but you're willing to give them up because you know you can always get one at a monthly meeting. So how many of you would be interested in that idea? Ayes, nays? Okay, so I'll start doing that next month. So that would be like printer cables? Yeah.
You also had suggested that people could bring in their assorted cables and somebody could explain what the subtle differences are in the shapes and functions. Because the presentation we had was very good, but for some of the cables.
Oh, and we were
5 or 6
doing
different
the
versions of the same
USB-C,
USB.
yeah. What do you think, Rick? Just do a thing on cables?
Yeah, if there's enough interest. It's a big problem. I mean, I know that it exists. We just have to figure out how to talk about it.
Okay, because I've got like totes that I could bring in of string cables. And you'll take them home, right?
No.
Well, door prizes.
Cabinet. Put them in the cabinet.
Okay, so you like that idea?
Yeah, because we all buy stuff periodically, and when we go buy something the next time, we put the old cables in a drawer someplace, and then we forget what goes where.
Let me spin this one past you. What would you say if we added a new thing to the agenda where we have maybe 2 cables that I present every month? You know, where we got big pictures so you can see what they are up there, and I explain what they're actually called and typically what kind of devices they're found on.
Yeah,
That's good.
most of us who aren't 25 anymore have a hard time remembering what they're all about.
That's so true.
Or some,
Yeah.
isn't USB-C kind of dangerous too, because of the different voltages it has, you can damage things as well.
That's also true,
That's worth
especially with power cords. I see that a lot with the power cords for the external hard drives. We've got this huge wall, I call them wall warts, that plugs in, takes up like 3 outlets. And then you get this teeny thin piece of string that comes, and then there's a thing and you plug it in. And sometimes you get mixed up which one goes to what. So maybe we'll do a thing on how to identify your power supplies too. Just throw it in there with the cables. Okay, you like the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the responsible adult, so I'll take responsibility of making sure it happens next month. Okay, and we'll make it short, like maybe 5 minutes tops?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's in a file on the website, so 3 weeks later, we can go
Put
look
together
at
and send
Link to it.
Do you think it would be possible for us to have a section on the website that's just cable identifier? You know, I mean, how many people know what a NEMA 15 to, I'm trying to remember my UC 13 cable is?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
That's the standard. This one goes into the outlet and this one goes into the back of the computer. Yeah. Okay. We'll fill that need. Okay, so we did freebies, wanted, for sale, help desk. Let's get into help desk. Anybody have problems this month? Oh, wait a minute, I gotta stop and do one thing first. A member asked me where I would recommend they go to get a smartphone screen replaced. And I didn't know what to say because I don't have a smartphone and I never damage any equipment. So what do you recommend as good places to get smartphone screens replaced? We'll go with Rick first.
If you're going to go to a third party, I've had some real good success with Batteries Plus.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a great job. I know the guy that owns all the franchise here. So
Okay, would that be just for smartphones or also for tablets?
they'll do tablets too, but they're better with smartphones.
Smartphones, okay. He was saying Batteries Plus. I think they're called Batteries
Batteries plus bulbs.
and more. Plus balls. Okay. Wow. Any other suggestions? Bill
There's a
Howe.
place down around Cincinnati area, it's called iFixit.
I fix it?
Yeah, you break it, I fix it.
Is it in the malls or?
They get, strip malls and not really, I don't go to the malls, so I don't know, but I see them.
Okay, I fix it down in Cincinnati. George, did you have a suggestion?
No, I have a question.
Hold your question.
There's cell phone repair out at Cross Point. Had iPods repaired there. Damaged screen.
Has anybody had a phone or tablet repaired at DNA in Kettering? The ones that are near Christopher's Restaurant? No, okay. Oh, by the way, DNA just opened a second store up north, I think in Fairmont.
Is DNA in the green?
No, the one, what's the name of the one in the green?
They're good.
Gem City did.
Do they do phones? Okay, so there's the, was it Great Lakes, Blue Lakes? What's the name of the place in the green?
Gem City Digital.
Gem City Digital
They've been wonderful.
in the green.
Then where is DNA?
DNA in Kettering, Dorothy Lane and Woodman, there's that shopping center on the east side of Woodman, and it's got a pet supply store, and all the way at the other end of the L is Christopher's Restaurant, and on that side near there is DNA.
Okay.
They're listed on our webpage.
Yeah, on our webpage. Do we have Gem City Digital in the webpage? What's the third one that's around? Or maybe they're out of business now.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's place one out.
All right, so anyway, so I just want to make sure I got that one out. Now we'll go to questions. I'll go to the front row. George?
This is George.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I'd like to explain what happened, and maybe I would get some comments. I was having trouble transferring audio to iTunes. Okay. I called Apple support, or the Apple people, and after about 2 hours, I still haven't got the problem solved. But the first thing they did was they upgraded my OS. And I told them that you know, if I went to the App Store, it said I'm not eligible for anymore. I was running El Capitan on my old, and they said, no, we're going to upgrade you to Sierra. Now, how can they upgrade me to Sierra when you know, if I tried to do it, it wouldn't do it?
What it would say to me is that the App Store was not communicating properly with your computer to see what make, model, and form factor it was.
Well, Sierra's running on my machine right now.
Yeah, so, but the thing is, the App Store won't tell you about an operating system, new operating system, unless you ask it to tell you about it. Apple stopped doing that because people were complaining about them pushing people to newer operating systems. Now, if you want to know whether an operating system is valid for your computer, when you go to the App Store, now, just go up here. There we go, App Store. Okay, now, I'm running Mojave, not Catalina. What I usually do is I just put in the word Apple in the search field, and then it's going to come up with the stuff that's available. And in this particular instance, I'm going to put in Catalina, because I'm pretty sure this one is, and when I bring it up, and let me see, I want the, okay, they keep changing where stuff is here. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want the one where, here we go, more. It'll indicate what machines it'll run on. If you try to download it and it won't work on your machine, it just won't let you download it.
Okay.
Okay, so don't expect Apple to nag you the way they were doing for about 4 years, every time there's a new operating system. They learned their lesson about that.
So as a Sierra user now, do I want to upgrade even further? As I
Okay.
do?
The reference that I use for knowing what works and what doesn't work, let me get the applications here. Pretty sure I have it on the computer. Is a program called Mac Tracker. It's a freebie. You can either download it through the Apple App Store or you can download it from their website. Mac Tracker has every piece of hardware that Apple made. And it'll tell you what that particular piece of hardware can run and do. In this particular instance, in the sidebar, there's a button and it says, "This Mac." And I'm just going to say, okay. So it's saying that there's 2 versions of this laptop, a 15-inch from 2018 and one from 2019. We'll pretend this is the 29, well, we'll make it the 2018 one. And if I bring that up in the window, here, I'll make it full screen, or fuller screen, and I click on the software tab. This machine was originally shipped with Mac OS 10.13, and it can run the latest release of Mac OS, so it can run Catalina.
Okay.
Now, let's say I have something not as new, and I want to know what it runs. So let's close out this. Let's go over here and we'll say iMacs. Let's say it's let's go back a couple years here. Let's say it's an iMac and it's a 24-inch from August of 2007. All right? So it tells me all this good stuff about it. And then when I click on software, it tells me that it originally shipped with Mac OS 10.4, which was Tiger. And later, it was shipped with Mac OS 10.5, Leopard. And the maximum OS it can run is Mac OS 10.6. 10.11.6, which would be El Capitan, Yosemite, I think. Yosemite.
Okay.
So, Mac Tracker is what I use. I don't use the App Store. So when somebody says, like let's say Kathy says, "Bill, can I upgrade to whatever?" I say, "Okay, well tell me what your computer is," and then I use Mac Tracker, and that tells me exactly what it'll run. The other thing it'll do is talk about how much memory you can put into it. Because sometimes what Apple tells you is less than what you can actually put in. So this particular amount of memory, Apple says that Apple says you can only put 4 gig of RAM in it, but it'll actually recognize 6 gigabytes of RAM, a 2 gigabyte chip and a 4 gigabyte chip. Yes?
If Apple isn't bothering me to update, how do I know that something new is out that I should update?
Because you come to the meetings. Instead of, they went around the world on a
Well, not really.
Around the Pacific.
Pacific.
Oh, you didn't do the whole world?
No,
Yeah.
just the Pacific.
Just the Pacific.
Yeah.
Pacific's large.
Yeah,
Okay.
How long a trip?
So
93 days.
Bigger
there's
than
no
a
other way to
typical
find out
photo.
than come to a meeting.
So is this a case of R&D, requirement and distribution? Or
Oh,
is-
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. But to use them as an exemplar, this is what you should do. Don't just sit at home unless that's what you want to do, but go do stuff. Use your computers, explore, enjoy life. Because it's a shorter trip than you think. Okay, moving right along. You said you had a question other
Well,
than that?
how do you know to update if you're not, if you've been on a war cruise and how do you know?
If you go to the App Store whether you're on your tablet or you're on your regular computer, it will tell you, if you ask it, it'll tell you what the latest operating system is. If you're talking about a smartphone, an iPhone, or an iPad, if you go to Settings, General, and then in the side with General, where it says Software Update, it will tell you if there is an update out there for your device.
Right.
With the mobile devices, Apple is still very aggressive about making you get the latest and greatest if they can. Okay? I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to go to Bill Wharton, and then I'll go to Bill Howe.
I know Apple, iTunes is going to be replaced by 3 different applications, right?
Oh, it is.
Okay. My question is, what happens if you don't do anything? Does your iTunes disappear? Does it?
No, it just keeps working.
It continues to work? So
Yeah, it just keeps
as
working.
long as you're on one of the older operating systems and everything, it's
Correct.
not going to be a problem?
Correct. The only place where you might end up with a bump in the road is, and it's not right now, but later on, you may get a message saying that your iTunes is too old for you to purchase music from the iTunes store. At that point, you need to use another device to purchase your music. Okay.
I was also just going to mention that I did see an article this morning talking about the number of people that were upset because Catalina was not compatible with Microsoft Word 11.
That's because Microsoft Office 2011, they are 32-bit applications. And how many years have I been warning you about 32-bit apps not working someday soon? Okay, did you have anything else, Bill? Okay, and we're going to go to Bill House.
Back to the update thing, with Catalina, the system software updates is a separate thing in system preferences. The App Store does not update Catalina or the operating system, it just does your application.
Oh.
So you can go into your system preferences and select software update.
Mojave does that too.
Yeah, okay. And there's a place in there where you can check a box that says automatically keep my Mac up to date. And it will notify you of updates available, and it will give you a choice to install or repair or restart, things like that. Or if you don't want it to do that, don't check that blue box.
Okay.
And also, if you're using the App Store app in Catalina and you're using a VPN, you may get a thing that says cannot connect to the App Store, so you have to turn your VPN off to get into the App Store and do the updates.
You know what?
Rich, I'm watching at some of the members just shaking their heads.
Yeah.
What about
Update the app
When you
store.
need it the most,
Good.
turn
You
it
just said
off.
something I completely don't understand.
Okay.
Can't use your
Can
VPN.
I add one to what you said? And that is, if you go to your Apple and you select About This Mac, and you bring up your typical dash screen, there's now a software update button in there that will,
Take you right to that.
yeah. And it started to appear there, if I remember correctly, High Sierra?
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So for the computer, that would be another one. Yes, Stan?
About 6 months ago, I upgraded my router from a Airport Extreme to a Amplify Mesh router. Just the router itself, not the extension. I still use 2 Apple Airport extenders. And almost like on a weekly basis, those extenders lose connection.
Yeah.
And I have to unplug them and plug them back in again. And then on my server, I keep getting an alarm saying that the IP address has changed on the router and stuff. So I can't figure out where to start. I can't notice, I don't see anything in the software for the router that tells me to use.
Who is the maker of the mesh router?
Amplify.
Okay, I don't remember. Bill?
Have you used the airport utility? In the utilities folder, which is in the applications folder.
To connect to the extension?
No, to do the update part or firmware updates to, are they Apple Express?
Yes, they're the old Apple Express.
Yeah.
And they're all
Sometimes when you open up airport utility, it'll come up with a little red dot there saying that these need to be, the firmware needs to be updated. You might try that, but it's
It
airport
runs a
utility.
diagnostic, and then it tells you if you have a problem, what you should do.
Well, for some reason, the IP address on my router keeps changing.
Okay. The other thing to remember is that the airport extremes, the airport time capsules, and the airport express are all no longer being made by Apple. They're considered to be legacy. They're still supported, but they're legacy. And they are not what I would call 6th generation Wi-Fi devices. No way, no how. When you attempt to mix and match older devices with mesh systems, my personal experience has been the D-Link mesh stuff doesn't want to play. The Netgear mesh stuff, which would be Orbi, seems to play okay with the Apple stuff. The EO, which just got bought, don't you have EO? Who just bought them? Was it Amazon? Yeah, okay. They're sort of like in between the Netgear and the D-Link. So again, if you're using a lot of airport expresses hooked up to speakers and doing that sort of stuff,
I use them for print servers.
Okay.
And Wi-Fi extensions.
Okay. They're just going to be problematic. And it has to do not so much with the inherent design of the circuitry design, but the fact that these things were not designed with proper consideration for heat. I can't tell you how many Apple time capsules I've seen where that big honking hard drive in it has just cooked this unit, and it's no longer workable. And I've seen the same thing with the original Airport Expresses, the ones where you could plug them directly into the wall. The newer ones that are like small hockey pucks that have a cord that you plug in, they seem to be more heat tolerant.
Yeah, that's the one that I have.
Okay. So, no magic bullet for you today. Let me go to...
Good. I used to clean my Mac by MacBook, and recently I noticed that it says it would like to install a new helper tool. Any problem in doing that?
Well, it depends on what the helper tool is from. What other software do you have? Is it something like a Microsoft Office? Or is it maybe a Avast Security?
No, well, Avast has a similar type of...
Yeah, because Avast has helper tools that it then installs. They usually end up being like control panels in your system preferences. So it's, with me, I always go, okay, what is this helper tool from? So I know that the product from MacPaw, Clean My Mac, that has a helper tool that it installs.
It's okay?
And that's okay.
That's the one, that's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
MacPaw, Clean My Mac, that's okay. Those are the folks from Ukraine. The other one, which is Zeobit, which is from the Russian Foundation, that's MacKeeper, and it's got other names. Yeah, I never, when you meet somebody and they've got a different name than the last time you met them, it always
Look
makes
out.
me a little suspicious. You know, I don't care if they got married or not. You know, they should have kept that name. But that's the way I am with MacKeeper. It's not, I treat it as a virus. MacPaw from the Ukraine, and their Clean Their Mac product, good product, secure product. They sell stuff in the Apple App Store. So they have products that have been gone through there. Okay, we'll come up front to Ray.
The iTunes thing with Catalina and that excellent program.
Okay, it's just a player.
I got accidentally upgraded to Catalina.
Okay.
There's a lot of interesting things in it. that I don't quite understand, but I'm trying to find the music that I already had. And it's hiding in there, so how to use it. And it's 3 different sections now instead of 1, so.
Yeah. And I have not, I deliberately did not update the club machine to Catalina because I was doing a presentation today. And I've learned never to change a computer before a presentation. Once we're done with the meeting today, I'll be putting Catalina on it, and then Rick and I will be getting together about, what do we need
There's
to
a lot
alert you
of new
about.
stuff in there.
Oh, there almost always is a lot of good
I was
stuff.
looking down at my dock, Apple TV, what's that? Oh, podcast, another
Well,
icon.
the Apple TV app does other stuff too. So for example, let's say you do Hulu, you do Sling TV, you do Netflix, sorry, haven't seen your moment, Netflix, and you do Amazon Prime, okay? Well, with the Apple TV app, you have all of those different things associated with the Apple TV app, and you say, I want to watch Midsummer Murders. And it looks to see which one has it, and it just opens it. Now, that's how it's supposed to work. I don't have actual experience with it.
Now, in about Spectrum and the price increases, a class on cutting the cord would be, cutting the cable would be awesome.
Okay. The only way you're going to cut your internet connection is if you become your own internet provider. There are some local public entities in Montgomery County that are in the process of creating their own high-speed internet for the libraries and the schools and the city governments and the police departments, the fire departments, with the idea of later on letting citizens access this. So,
This is probably after I'm expired.
well, do you have that scheduled in so I can get it on my calendar? Because ever since I saw that story about the guy in Canada who's giving $1,000 to, well, he died, so his executor is giving $1,000 to every person that showed up at his funeral. I've been going to funerals. I like my wine, and it costs expensive. Okay, we're going to go to Elton.
I hate to change the subject over there, partner, but we've got another question.
Sure.
I live in a tri-level home, and occasionally I drop out my Wi-Fi, and I've got to go up closer to where it's at and reconnect. I've seen several emails lately called iBooster, which is a little white thing you just plug into your wall socket, and it supposedly acts like a transponder, like the old ham radio transponder.
But
It says it takes it.
There's two
There's
pieces
two what?
to it. There's 2 pieces to it. The one that you plug into the electric outlet in the area where you've got Wi-Fi dropout, and the other one that's in the room with your router that you plug into the electric outlet, and then you take an Ethernet cable and plug it into your router.
Well, it does mention it. It shows just one thing. It says you plug it in, you don't have to do anything else. That's what it says. Anything else, it's a repeater.
Would you like to talk about this topic for a moment?
I have. I used it in our church basement because we weren't getting enough of a signal. You just plug it in the wall. Obviously, I had to plug cable into it to do a little configuring on it. And it's linked up to a time capsule that's upstairs in our sanctuary. It's working fine.
Okay.
We're not going to blaze with a lot, but it's pulling about 5 megabits.
So it wirelessly connects to
Yes, it does.
So it's basically doing
It's a
a
repeater.
Wi-Fi extender
It
of
is
the
an
network.
extender, yes.
Will it handle the 100 megabits that Spectrum provides?
It is not going to give you 100 megabits. You're going to have a drop off.
Oh,
You will on any
reduces your
extender.
bandwidth, huh?
You're gonna reduce it. But if you have nothing,
Okay, now, how old is your router? Not the cable modem, but the router.
I bought it several months ago. It's a Netgear something night. Anyway, it's
Like a night
$174. It's a good router.
Okay.
Wireless
Netgear
router.
may have other devices that will extend that.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so what I find, okay, this is my rule of thumb. If I've already got something from the company, my expectation is if I buy a extender for the network from the same company, it's going to work with their product.
Yeah.
Okay, in the same way that the airport expresses work very nicely with the time capsules and the airport extremes to extend the network and to make it so that, you know, when you're walking around, you always have your Wi-Fi.
Okay, well, I got my question answered. I'll discard that iBooster thing
Yeah.
since I like my 100 megabits.
And you won't get
And I'll go back to Netgear and
Okay.
see if I can find an extender.
The other thing to remember when Dan was talking about a mesh router system, this is where you're buying a base station and at least one satellite with it. So when you've got a larger home, you then can get that coverage in the other place. Those mesh systems have their own special Wi-Fi radio connection between the satellite and the base station so that you do get your 100 megabit even though you're connected to the satellite.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Let me go to Larry.
I want to change the subject.
Okay, always allowed.
I have basically a non-working auxiliary power source that you plug into the wall so that when the electricity goes out, you can basically plug it in, you know?
Uninterruptible power supply, also called a UPS,
Yeah.
not to be confused with
Right.
Go Brown.
And I'm fortunate I have a friend that basically gave it to me because he worked for that company.
Yeah.
And since it conked out, I was looking around to see if there's anything else out there. And I wondered if anybody has an auxiliary power source that they've used and how they like it. Yes.
Okay. Every one of my expensive large screen TVs
Yes.
has an APC
Yeah, okay.
UPS that it plugs into. It's done for two reasons. One, so that I've got surge protection.
Yes.
Okay. But the other one is if I get a little beep boop, a little blip, like in Centerville
Right. Yeah.
Friday,
Where,
maybe it was
yes,
Thursday.
it was for a few
Yeah,
hours.
and my power was out for like about 5 minutes. I didn't have to reset all the controls on
Mine
the
was
TV.
more than an hour.
Yeah. So APC, American Power Conversion, owned by Schneider,
Okay.
they are
Okay.
top of the gear. The other one is Triplite. Triplite, that's another old name in
And
electronic.
what kind of, like, with the one you're getting, how long do you have?
Well, it depends on what you're putting on it. So what are you putting on this unit?
Well, I was just looking for a power source that, because, you know, a lot of them come with different hookups.
Yeah.
And you can have like your sump, like I had it for a sump pump, but I've used it also for even additional lights, all kinds of stuff. And I know it didn't last that long, but
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. The stuff with the sump pump, where you've got a mechanical pump, there, the typical vendors you want to look are Lowe's, Home Depot, Myers, not Myers, Menards.
Right.
Okay. If you're looking for stuff for televisions
Yeah, okay.
and maybe a computer or two,
Okay,
then you want to be going Sam's Club, Costco.
okay.
They've got the $50 units, which are perfectly adequate for the television and a couple.
See, I just
TVs.
don't want to, I don't need a gas one or propane or any of that. I'm just looking for, you know, a system that you leave plugged in and you got.
Generator.
Generator. I know, I got a
$10,000,
house next to me, it's got a
hook it up to
whole
your
house.
natural gas, you're good to go.
Run a line from your next door neighbor.
Okay.
Well, his power will be out
A lot of
too.
people don't know, but
No, he's got a generator.
power company can install a whole house surge protector
Yeah.
on your meter,
Yes, I can.
which will cover everything in the house.
Okay.
We did that years ago after we got hit by lightning and it blew out a bunch of stuff and it worked great. There's a monthly charge and,
Yeah.
but the DP, who is it, Veteran up here now?
No, it's DPNL.
It's
DPNL.
Or if you're with,
Because you're Duke, right?
yeah, we're Duke, yeah, just call them up, it's called Surge Strike or something like that.
But when
The
you do
electrician
it,
can do it too.
if you're still doing over-the-air television, don't forget you also have to have that TV antenna.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the reasons, the other reason why I put the APC unit on was that it also had a connector for the coax in, so I was also getting surge protection for the antenna lead going to the television. So they come in different makes, flavors, etc.
The surge protection
Yes,
will not.
Dan.
As long as his capacitors haven't been blown by a spike, most of those are just lead acid batteries, and they can replace the battery. Now, the price of the battery might be the same price as a whole new.
Yeah. Well, I probably, I hate to say this, this guy's retired, I probably could take it back to him. I had one once before.
Who's the manufacturer?
Um,
Uptime?
No, it's a fairly good sized unit.
Are you willing to spend $50 to have it work again?
Yeah, probably.
Take it to Battery Plus.
Okay.
Batteries and bulbs.
But you know, we're talking about a big
Yeah,
piece of.
take it into them.
Okay.
Chances are,
As long as there's not like a warning light saying that it's been expended from a strike or a spike.
No,
or
I don't
something.
think that's,
yeah,
probably
it's just a battery
The
guy.
battery's probably.
but the last time I gave it back to him, I think it was Emerson is who made this particular.
Okay.
And what he did is he says, I want it back, because he says, I know the company like to have it back to do fault failure analysis. Just analyzing, you know, he
Yeah.
says, I'll just get you another one, you know?
Okay.
But I hate to keep doing that, you know, that was 10 years ago. Get through, yeah.
We'll sell one on eBay. We'll split the money.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
Thank
where
you,
we
I
at with
appreciate the help.
We got about another 7 minutes so we can do health tests.
Just remember, a surge protector will not protect you from dropouts.
Correct.
It takes the battery element to supply the power to keep you up.
So if the power gets, I'm
The
going to
surge-
use an incorrect term, dirty,
I understand, yeah, because this,
Too
the
many.
surge
this
strip is not
conditions-
going to help you with
yeah,
that.
it conditions the, you're right, it conditions
Right,
the
it
power.
conditions the power. So the power comes in, goes through the battery, and then it comes fed from the battery. So there's that other good point. Yes, Jim?
We just completed a trip to Europe, and we were experimenting with the VPN that a friend of mine had recommended, and the no-cost version you get from Opera.
The Opera web browser that has VPN available.
So my wife every once in a while likes to listen to an English language broadcast. Now, so I got the VPN registered in the United States, and I was able to contact Spectrum. Spectrum asked me, are you a subscriber? And I said yes, and I put in my code and things, and Spectrum came up. A half to two-thirds of the channels that I normally read here were not available. Some that were available, a couple of them were cable news, but there was not a bandwidth when it came through the VPN that you could get a consistent broadcast. Now this compares that when I'm in Honolulu, I have to go on the internet through the hotel, and I get on there and I get the same TV performance on my computer that I get at home.
Okay, now remember.
So there's something in the network system.
Well, remember, Opera is providing a free VPN, but it's constrained because anyone that's using Opera that has the VPN function turned on has access to it. That's not free. The folks that own Opera are paying money to a VPN service, and the way they handle it is a cash flow. They want to pay the same amount every month. So they say, okay, once it's used up this, everybody gets throttled back.
So it turns out it wasn't very useful.
Okay.
But it may just have a peak bandwidth available.
So the next thing would be going with a paid VPN service. So I would be open to anybody that has thoughts about that next month, about if you're using a VPN, who you use and why you use them.
Some routers have built-in VPN.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Bill again.
I've noticed on a vast secure line VPN that if you're using, say you're coming out of their place in Chicago, and if you're doing a search for local stores, you have to change your zip code because it's registering it as a Chicago zip code instead of your local zip code. Also, certain websites that are not in the United States, you can't get unless you change your location to maybe that country
Yes.
where they're at.
So remember how VPN works. Your computer is connecting to the VPN server, and then the VPN server is connected to one of their servers in a country somewhere around the world. So if I want to listen to BBC Radio 2, and the BBC says no Radio 2 for you if you're outside Great Britain, I have to have my VPN popping up somewhere in Great Britain, including Northern Ireland. Okay, that's another political comment. All right. If I want to watch a soccer game in Italy, my VPN, it's broadcast locally, it has to pop up in Italy.
Yeah, but see, the
Okay.
problem with the Opera is it doesn't let you go to a specific country.
Correct, because it's a free service. The paid services, they give you more options.
Right.
Okay, so
I'm just giving a report.
you are doing excellent in explaining the benefits and the, what's the other one? Drawbacks.
Yeah, what that's trying to do is just hide your location for privacy versus trying to be somewhere so you can get around restrictions.
Correct. So for example, if I'm doing stuff in Europe, if I'm doing business in Europe, the people I do business with require me to use Swiss-based email services. So I have to use a VPN, so I pop up in Switzerland, and then I connect with my email server there, issue the emails get sent out from Switzerland. If I try and do it from the US, they'll get kickback from the customer because they say, no, you're coming from the United States of America. It has to be inside the Eurozone. So I'm getting the sense that for those of you who are interested in VPN, that I ought to do some more exploration and maybe get some good recommendations for paid VPN services.
Please.
Okay. All right, we'll go to Richard. Richard, you're going to take us out with this call.
Okay. This is not so much a problem as an experience. When I upgraded to iOS 13,
yes,
part of that process is a change to reminders. The reminders app, Apple has rewritten it. So under iOS 13 and/or Catalina, it's got a different look to it, and it's apparently a different database structure in the cloud. And if you get a choice as you go through the setup, do you want to convert or don't? All right, my recommendation is, unless you're going to go iOS 13 and Catalina at the same time, very close, and you use reminders, don't convert. Because I did, and therefore I lost access to all my reminders, and it took 3 days before on my iOS 13 devices those items became available again. You know, first couple of hours had no access. Then by the end of the day, there were 3. And by 24 hours later, I had maybe 10. Okay. It took 3 days before I got all my reminders access again under iOS 13. And on my Macs, which I have not gone to Catalina yet, I don't have access to my reminders at all.
Okay.
So that was not something I was really prepared for, in spite of, I guess as I thought back, their warning windows and stuff may have implied that this would happen, but it wasn't stated as clearly as it could have been.
Have you talked to Apple support at all on this?
No.
Okay. Because I just wondered if it's a trapdoor that you can't undo it?
One way.
Or whether
Yeah,
it's a one-way.
I think it's just one way.
It's
My
one way,
impression.
you can't go back.
Okay, one way you can't go back. If Rick says it, I think it's true.
It's true.
I didn't say it is true, I said I think it's true. If Rick says
It is true.
All right, it's 11 o'clock, and we have to move on to raffle. Now, I'm going to do this, I'm sort of two different minds of how I'm going to do this. Because most of it is showing you how the Safari web browser works. I'm using Safari because I know everybody here has Safari on their devices because it's from Apple, and Safari is Apple's web browser. So I'm of two minds. Either I can roll through the presentation real quick and then using my paper notes do the actual live demonstration of the principles, or I can do it where I've got two screens up at the same time. One is the presentation and the other one is Safari.
Two screens.
Hmm?
Two screens.
You like two screens?
Two screens.
Okay. So I'll go with that. So I'm going to resize this thing a little bit. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to have Safari just sort of hiding over here in the background. Okay. But I still have my paper notes. So, browse the web like a boss, productive searching and surfing. This is not going to focus on all the hidden features in Safari and all the sophisticated advanced stuff you can do. I'm going to focus on the basics. The basics that you may not know even though you've been web browsing and surfing and searching for quite a few years. Okay, so that's the purpose of this.
Bill, move to your right.
Full window.
Bill, move to your right.
Left shoulder.
How's that? Better?
There you go.
Better? Okay.
Get that full window.
Okay. Cowabunga.
Cowabunga.
Okay, you see those folks surfing? That's the sort of experience you should have when you're surfing the web. And if you're not feeling that, if your hand's starting to cramp up and you're feeling, I can't find what I'm looking for, that means you're not surfing like a boss. So let's go on to the next slide here. Okay, and you know who I am. And you know my strengths and my weaknesses, but I would ask that you turn off your devices so that they don't start beep booping in the middle of the presentation. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover browsing and searching websites, zooming in on websites,
Can you go
zoom
full
in,
screen?
zoom out.
Bill, can you go full screen?
Hmm?
Can you go full
Open
screen?
that full
Yeah,
screen in the window.
it's harder
Full
to
window.
read further back.
Press Alt.
Okay, we're going to go full screen with it.
There we go.
Okay, I'm going to just roll through the presentation and then we'll put it off to the side and we'll do the Safari part. Okay, browsing and searching websites. Zooming in on websites. That means zoom in, zoom out, making the text bigger or smaller. Browsing, searching, and clearing history. Downloading files and PDFs. Okay, people have some confusion about what happens when you download a file. And what sort of weird thing happens in Safari when you're trying to download a PDF? Okay. Viewing web pages and tabs. I know some of you have never used tab browsing at all. Private browsing. And then those last two, viewing, editing, top sites. I don't think we're going to get to that far. So let me go to the next one. So, browsing and searching websites. Address bar is also your search bar. All right. For this one, I'm really more comfortable. Let me exit out of here. Let me get over to Safari. All right, so let me start her off fresh here. So, just so you know, Safari is
Bring it to the front.
this little guy here. Now, I've got it set in its default state. When you first launch Safari, before you change anything, it comes up with a thing called favorites. Well, these are websites that Apple has already put in to the web browser for you. And your Safari web browser keeps track of the places that you go to on your web browser, and it will add those frequently visited things to the bottom of this favorites page. Okay? So in other words, Safari is tracking what you do and keeping track of how many times you go to a particular website. Once you go there a couple times, it adds that to frequently visited. Now, up here at the top, we have this thing. It's called the address bar, and it says there, search or enter website name. All right? Now, let's pretend that we're going to go to a restaurant. So I'm going to put in, I don't want to hear it for those of you who like the Oakwood Club, I'm going to put in Pine Club. P-I-N-E, and now space C-L-U-B. All right, now, I'm getting a variety of different things show up. Before I even finished typing the word club, these things started to come up. The first one, it says maps. So the Safari web browser says, hey, there's something by that name and it's in your local area. If I click on that, Safari launches the Maps program from Apple, and it brings up a map to show me where that Pine Club is. And it also gives me information about, if it's a store and such, hours of operation, if they have a website, and various other things.
Phone number.
Okay. And underneath that, we've got some other things that have come up. Pine Club menu, Pine Club apartments, and right above it, it says DuckDuckGo suggestions. The search engine I'm using is DuckDuckGo. If I had Safari set to use Google, it would have been Google suggestions coming up. Now, those suggestions are aggregated by DuckDuckGo from other people who have started looking for something related to Pine Club. And those people are in my local area. Okay. So if I click on this the second one, Pine Club menu, okay, it gives me the search page from DuckDuckGo, and here's the website for the Pine Club, and if I click on it, come on, there we go, taking a little while, boom, I've now got the Pine Club menu. But notice, I didn't put in https://www.pineclub.com. I just put in Pine Club. You don't have to put in the www stuff anymore, even when you know the address. Just put in normal question type material. Let's say we wanted to do Apple computer. Well, I'm just going to start typing APPO. Now, something different happened here. I know it's hard for you to see, but up here, it has auto-completed APPL with an E, a dot, and a COM. The reason why Safari did that is Apple.com is one of my bookmarks, also called a favorite. And so it sees it's in there, already stored, and it's going to show me that as one of the choices first. And then underneath it, it's got a thing that says top hits. That means this is a place that lots of people go to when they start to type in the word Apple. Okay? So if you're following the crowd, this is an easier way for you to, you don't have to type everything in. In other words, don't scroll, search. Search to get to where you want to be. And underneath, DuckDuckGo has all these other suggestions. Apply for green card, appendicitis symptoms, Apple appliance repair, because all I put in was APP. If I put in another L, now I'm getting some different things. The apply for green card is still there, but appliance repair, I'm getting more stuff for appliances. And then underneath this, bookmarks and history, there's another thing we'll be talking about, and that's called history. Safari also has access to that. And it knows that I've gone to these places before, and somehow they're related to those letters, APP. Okay, now, let's go back here a second. I'm going to type in TMG. And so one of the top hits is TMG date. And so we're going to use our website to look at some stuff. Okay. One of the other things to think about, oh, let's do a different one here. Let me go to favorites. Let me go to Wikipedia. And I want to put in the word Monroe. Oh, excuse me, missed an M. There we go, Monroe. Yeah, so we have a guy that his birthday was yesterday, October 11th. His name Douglas Albert Monroe. Coastie, he's a Coast Guardsman, got the Medal of the Honor. He's the only non-Marine to be in the Marine Hall of Honor. So sometimes it's good to, we can use the internet to bring up people and places that we should be grateful to. So here we've got a web page, and we've got all sorts of stuff in here. So what if we're looking for a particular term that's on this web page somewhere? This is a long web page. If we were scrolling, we'd be scrolling forever. You can do a find, a search of just this web page. Now the way you get to that is by holding your command key. That's the key that's on either side of your space bar, and the letter F. And when you do that, you get a search bar that appears, and it's just for that web page. So let's type in, I'm just going to type in the word marine. And as I do that, the screen darkens, and wherever the word marine appears, it starts to be highlighted.
Command key F.
F, thanks.
Okay, so how would you use something like this? You're on a website for a department store like Macy's or Kohl's, and you're looking at shoes, or you're looking at shirts, and you're interested in polo shirts. So you type in the word polo. Well, instead of having to scroll for 15, 20 minutes, because there's a lot of different types of shirts, boom, it'll show you where that is, and if you do a Command G, it'll walk you through all of those occasions. So now we're down like 3 or 4 pages down, and I just keep hitting the Command key and the G. Now notice, we're searching just the web page. I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody do a search for something, and they start up at the address bar. So if you were looking for your keys, would you, let's say you lost your keys, would you start looking in the Ukraine or Poland? Or would you maybe start in your local area? Would you start looking in Kettering or Yellow Springs or Centerville? Or would you maybe start in the room that you're in? So when you're doing a search from that top address bar, you're searching the whole internet. When you're doing a search from this search bar, you're searching just the web page that you've got up in front of you. Which one do you think is going to be a more effective search? You want to find that key. Okay, now I'm going to go back to where we were. So over here in the upper left-hand corner, we've got what I call the stoplight, the red, yellow, and green buttons. And then we've got our back arrow and forward arrow. I'm gonna hit that back arrow, and I'm gonna hit it again, I'm gonna hit it again, I'm gonna hit it again, I'm gonna hit it again. And now I'm going to get myself to TMG Dayton. Here we go. TMG Dayton. All right. So we're looking at the welcome page for TMG Dayton. Now I'm going to hit meetings. Now I'm going to hit one-to-one clinic. Now I'm going to hit directions. Now I'm going to hit membership, resources, vendors, photos, officers. Okay, so you're going like, okay, what's special about that, Bill? Well, how often do you end up having to go back and forward using your back button and your forward button? Well, there's an easier way to do it. You've got arrow keys on your keyboard. If I hit my right arrow, command right arrow, I'm going forward. Command left arrow, I go back. It's easier to hold your command key and be hitting those arrow keys on your keyboard. Holding down the command key, and now I'm hitting that. Oops, excuse me. Got to be back on the page. And I'm hitting that right arrow to go forward, left arrow to go back. All right, now, those arrow keys, we got an up and a down arrow key. Well, if we hold the command key and we go down arrow, it'll move us down on a page. Let me go over to Wikipedia for that one, because that's nice and long. Let's go here, let's go, yeah, we'll go back to this.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a long page.
This is when you're setting the computer.
Let me go back one more. We'll go to the main page.
The up and down key,
So I'm holding down my down arrow, and I can scroll through it.
what the up and down
Okay.
key do?
It's a little more efficient than using the scroll bar. But the other key you can use is the space bar. If I tap the space bar in Safari, it moves me down one page. Space bar, nice big button, easy to find. Arrow keys, sometimes not so much. And every time I tap it, it'll take me down about a page. If I hold my shift key and I hit my space bar, it takes me up about a page. Now remember, that's not a website page, it's a how much can I see page on my screen. Going to be different from different computers to different computers. So, right arrow, left arrow, space bar, shift space bar. Now, there's another one. Let me get to, let's see if I can find something really, really long here. Now, let's do Apple Inc. Okay, so now I'm on the web page on Wikipedia for Apple Inc. And as I'm scrolling, yeah, it's kind of long there. Have you ever been at the end of a long web page, you scroll for like 20 minutes, and you suddenly realize that in order to go back, you need to be all the way at the top? Well, if you hold your command key and you hit your up arrow, it takes you to the very top of the web page. And if you hold your command key and you hit the down arrow, it takes you to the very bottom. If you've ever been in one of these clickbait things where you've got to click the next button to get to see the next little piece, because you want to find out what the story is on it, and they take you through click next, click next, click next. They always have that next button sort of at the bottom of the web page, and you got to scroll like 5 minutes to get there. Well, don't scroll. Command and hit the down arrow. Take you down to the bottom.
Wow.
Same thing if you're in a web browser and you're trying to unsubscribe from some unwanted emails. Okay, you always have that unsubscribe button at the bottom. Okay, well, command, down arrow. You need to be up at the top, command, up arrow. Up and down arrows. Okay. So let me hide this again. Escape. And we'll go back over to where we were. And okay. So now let me get back to playing. Okay, zooming in on web pages. I could see everyone's eyes grimace as I was putting those Wikipedia pages up, because the text is so small when displayed on this screen. Well, you can make the text what you want it to be by zooming in and zooming out. And there's two basic ways to do it. The first one is using your trackpad. Double tap to zoom in, and then when you're finished, you double tap and you zoom out. That's just if you want to just, briefly magnify. Or you can pinch in or pinch out with a trackpad. But you can also do it from your keyboard. And the keyboard gives you a little bit more control, and that's to hold that command key and press the plus to zoom in. In other words, make the text bigger. And the command key and the minus to zoom out. All right, so let's try it. Okay, here we are back at that Wikipedia. Apple Inc. Can anybody read that text? No. Let's hold our command key and let's hit the plus. And I'm just going to keep hitting plus until people can read it. Now notice what it did. It moved things around so that nothing got overlapped something else. It also increased the size of the photo so you could see it. Let's just hit space bar. Notice I'm not going to fool with those arrows. I'm just going to hit my space bar as I walk through it. Space bars are nice. You can find them real easy. Now, let's say the text is too big. Okay, and I can't really read it. It's too big, it's disjointed. I need things to be a little bit smaller. Hold that command key. Now remember, you've got command key on either side of your space bar, so it's easy to find the command key. Not the control key, but the command key. Hold that command key and hit your minus until it's the size you want it to be. So you don't have to squint, and you don't necessarily have to have your glasses on to be able to web browse. Because you can zoom in and zoom out with that text how you want. Again, if I want to do, if I want to do the, trackpad thing, and I've got good small motor skills, which I don't have, you can do the pinch to make things bigger or smaller, or you can do the double tap to zoom, double tap to, so that's double tap zoom, double tap unzoom. Come on, see the both fingers, thank you. Full screen here. The other way you can do it, if you're determined to use your mouse, you don't want to be using keyboard, you can go to your view menu, and when we get down to about here, towards the bottom, actual size, boom, reverts the web page to the actual size the people that own the web page want it to be. And underneath that, you've got a zoom in and a zoom out.
I missed, how did you get the actual size? What's the...
In the menu bar,
right?
I'm in Safari, I go to view, and almost way at the bottom, let me get it to where it's zoomed in. Actual size.
Actual size, okay, under the view.
Yeah, if I wanted to do it by keyboard, it'd be Command O. Excuse me, Command 0. Command 0 to take it to the actual size. Because sometimes we want it big, sometimes we don't. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our presentation. Okay, so the next one's going to be browsing, searching, and clearing history. History has nothing to do with history books. It's not his story. This is your web browser the Safari web browser in particular, keeps track of all the places that you've gone and all the websites that you've been on. And it keeps all that stuff in a history, and you can access that history. And sometimes it's easier to go to the history to go back to a particular web page you were on than it is to hit the back arrow or the forward arrow, especially if it was something you did like a couple weeks ago. Now, to browse history, in other words, you want to go to some place you've been to before on your web browser. You can do it two different ways, bring up the history. The first one is if you go to the menu bar, and there's a history on the menu bar, and you can select that, and in there it's got show history. And then you also can, and actually it'll show you condensed history that you've already got. Or you, from your keyboard, you can hold that command key again and hit the letter Y. So you're holding the command key down and you hit the letter Y. You can also search the history. Now think about it. If you've got your web browser Safari set up in its default mode, it's going to keep the history for several months. Well, whenever you've got more than 20 of something, 50 of something, I don't scroll, I search. Don't scroll, search. And that history has a search engine associated with it. The last thing that we'll cover is sometimes you don't want people to know where you've been. And you can clear your history. And I'll show you how to do that. So let me hit my exit here.
Oh man, no, I have history.
Okay, and let's just see. Okay, so I've got Safari going full screen, and I'm pushing up. This is the history menu bar. If I just click it, it's not actually necessary for me to keep getting up and down, but I'm trying to get extra steps from my Fitbit. Okay, so up at the very top, you have a choice that says Show All History. We'll do that in a minute. Underneath, it's showing me where I can open tabs that I accidentally closed or windows that I accidentally closed. And underneath, it's showing me the places that I've been recently. So I was on Wikipedia portal, Wikipedia front page, I've been on the Apple thing on Wikipedia, Monroe Medal of Honor, officers, photos, vendors. Oh, that's all the TMG stuff I was doing. And then here's some more stuff I was doing down below that. Now down here, earlier today, if I click on that, it's going to show you what I was doing with this web browser earlier today. I'm going to go down a little bit farther. Here it says Thursday, we'll do, let's do Saturday, September 14th. Okay, so I bring my pointer down, and then I click on that, and it says I was on one website on that day, and that was SoftPress, rather good design software for the Mac. If I go down one more, now we're on Friday, June 7th. Wow, I was doing all sorts of stuff. Thursday, the day before that, I know what I was doing. I was using the club machine to prep for the meeting that was coming up. And the earliest this has is April 29th. And all the different places I were at. And we'll pick this one. So if I put my pointer on top and click it, it's going to take me to that website. And that website was from the folks at MacPaw and their product, Clean My Mac. Now, let's go back to history. We just were at the MacPaw site. So it shows up in my current history for today, because I was just there. If we go back down to the April 29th, MacPaw is going to disappear. Because it only keeps one instance of it. Okay. That's why your history is a concise record of places you have gone. No duplicates, no triplicates. Makes it very useful as a tool. Now, let's say you don't want to be using the small pop-up menu for this. The very top item in the history menu is Show All History. Okay, so now we're getting a list of all the places. And right up here, I've got a search bar. So in the same way that instead of searching the entire internet, if I'm looking for something on a web page, I just search the web page, not the entire internet. Well, if I'm looking for something in the history, I don't search the internet, I just search the history. So let's type in M-A-C-P-A-W. Oh, here are the 3 things that I've gone to that are somehow related with the words M-A-C-P-A-W. Let's just try P-A-W. P-A-W. Oh, okay. So we've got Mr. Peabody's Way. Somehow, some way it's got P-A-W on it. So this is the senior's friend. You were web surfing. You don't remember the name of the website. You don't remember exactly what you were looking at. You just know that you've got a note that says, get such and such, okay? And you got a date on it, and that you were web surfing. So what you can do, let me clear my search here. So what you can do is you can go back and say, okay, hey, yeah, it was Friday. Let me hit the little chiclet there. It shows me all the stuff. This is all the places I was on Friday, and oh, since they're in sequential order, you can sort of figure out where you were in terms of time, and you can figure out what the place was. So the other thing that we were talking about, the third item, is clearing history. Now, this particular version of Safari, it's brand new. I just got updated, and they moved where the search bar and the clear history was. It used to be in the bottom left and the bottom right. Now they've got them both together up there. So if I click here, clear history, it's going to ask me, what do I want to clear? Do I want to clear the last hour? Now don't think nefarious. Think it's getting near Christmas and you're Christmas shopping and you don't want your spouse to be able to see what websites you've been looking at and stuff for a gift for her.
This says history in the upper left. Does that mean we have been at the menu, history menu on top and pulled it down, or what?
What it means is, here, let me get out of it here. Let me do a cancel here. We went to that first item, which is show history.
Right.
If I click it again, it takes me out of history. Show history.
And there it is.
Yeah. Now, you're not looking at stuff on the internet. You're looking at the record local on your machine that your web browser kept. All web browsers keep histories unless you tell them otherwise. Now, if you want to get rid of the history, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either from the history, show history, you've got a little button that you can click, and you can say, how much do you want to erase? Do you want to erase everything? Do you want to just erase the last hour? Just the stuff you did today, and yesterday? Or do you want to clear all history? The other way to get to it is if you go to the Safari menu item, and about in the middle, it's got a clear history there. And it's going to bring up that same little box, which is, what do you want to clear? How much do you want to clear? Just the last hour? I typically don't clear all my history, because, you know, I don't always remember the places I went, and if it's in history, I can find them. Yes, Larry?
It works really good. Okay, say I'm traveling, okay, and I wanna get my boarding passes for like the next day.
Yeah,
And, you know, a lot of hotels, you have a business center,
yeah.
and it's a good way to clear everything you did before you shut the machine down.
Oh, because it's not your computer.
That's
It's the
correct.
hotel computer.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's a good way, security-wise, that they don't have access to what you did.
yeah. Now, that would be an instance where I would say clear all history.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that's the,
Yeah, Bill?
Can you clear from date to date, or is it just those options you mentioned?
Oh, well, yeah, let me show you here. Let me do a cancel here. Let me go to my history menu, show all history, and we're gonna scroll down, we're gonna go to June, and I'm gonna pick one item, and I'm gonna hit my delete key. So I just took one item out of history. I used that when I went to a website and I got the pop-up, your flash is out of date, or, oh, your PC is full of viruses, call Microsoft at, 1404, and I'm going like, when did they move to Vancouver?
So in terms of clearing history, you can do the same thing if you just went back to your history and you went back to Tuesday, you opened up Tuesday,
Yeah.
selected all Tuesday and deleted
Yeah,
it.
yep,
Okay.
yep. Yes, Rod?
Are there any other repercussions that you experience if you eliminate it all other than giving you some strength that would allow you to get
No,
back?
because it doesn't, in Safari, when you clear history, you're just clearing the history. In other web browsers, when you do a clear, it'll clear cookies, it'll clear passwords. They're more of a power wash clear.
Could you do one of these lectures like port cookie sometime?
Sure.
Just a thought. In reference to history, does Firefox work basically the same as Safari?
Firefox, Google Chrome, Chromium, Opera, they all work pretty much the same way. Just be careful when you clear in Google and in Opera, because or Firefox, you can say, no, don't clear the cookies, or don't do
There
that.
are options in the Zoho browsers as to what you want to
Yeah.
But in all of them, an option window pops up, so it
Yeah.
doesn't automatically, when you say clear,
Yeah.
it doesn't clear everything. So that, I've hesitated to clear history before, because I didn't want everything to be gone.
Yeah, I just wondered the repercussions, how deep, how complete, or whatever did it go?
Yeah. So history is the one thing that I think most people are missing when they're using a web browser. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody, okay, I got to search for the bank site that I went to yesterday, or I got to search, and I'm going like, no, go to your history. Go to your history. Yeah.
Can't you bookmark those things if you really repeatedly go to them? Rather than have a...
That is correct. Some people also bookmark. But then I've seen people that have so many bookmarks. Okay, then what I see is they search their bookmarks to find the bookmark. And I'll go, okay, were you there? Did you go to that website yesterday? Yeah. Okay, history. Okay, they're all tools. Sometimes you use a screwdriver, sometimes you use a hammer, sometimes you use a sawzall. Okay, they're all tools. So let me get back out of here now. And needless to say, as usual, I put too much in the...
Do you recommend anything like that?
I'm not going to go there today.
We're way out.
Okay. So we were just doing browsing. Let me at least try and get this one done. Downloading files and PDFs. Okay, so let me go to history real quick. I'm going to go to membership on the TMG website. Okay, so most of you know what happens when you click on the download. Okay. the file comes in, it ends up either in your download folder, or if you're recalcitrant like me, I have it set to go on my desktop because I want to see it and use it, and then I throw them away. But if you click on something that's got a PDF attached to it, okay, I clicked on the download button, but the document is a PDF, an Adobe Acrobat portable document format file. Safari displays the file to you in the web browser. So we're looking at the membership application for TMG Data. Now this is where people get confused. They go, wait a minute, how do I get this thing to download? Well, if you move your pointer, you're in Safari, you move your pointer towards the bottom center of the screen, you get 4 choices. The first one is make it smaller. The second one is show it larger. The third one says bring it in and open it in preview. Okay, and then the last one says just download it.
Cool.
Just bring it and put it on my computer where you put all the other downloaded files. Okay. This is the one where I see a lot of confusion, because people will say, plus and minus, do I want to add it to my computer, subtract it to my computer? No. That's, do you want to make it bigger or smaller as you're looking at it?
What's third from the left again? Third from the left?
The first one is make it look smaller. The next one says make it look larger. The next one says open it in the program preview on my Macintosh.
Which is free safety.
Yeah, so if I click on that one, it brings it in and opens it in the preview application, but it's not saved yet. It's in memory. Can't tell you how many times people close it out and they thought, oh, I got it saved.
No.
And it is 12:01, so I'm going to say 2 things. One, once again, I tried to put too much in the bag, and I apologize for that. But the other thing is, search, don't scroll, okay? Don't bother typing in the HTTP, www. You don't know where the forward slashes and the backward slashes are anyway on your keyboard. You don't know where the colons are. So just forget that stuff. And when you're doing a search for like a question, don't try and think analytic, just type it in like a normal human being would ask the question. Okay? And that'll get you where you want to be. Supplemental materials that'll be mailed out to you. One of them is a cheat sheet for all the key presses on the keyboard. And the important ones I highlighted in that document. And last but not least, my 2 reference materials for the presentation today. One was a book from Tidbits, Take Control Of, Web Browsing. And the other one was a website, a tutorial website by David Nuttenboom. He has really, really excellent Macintosh tutorials and iOS and iPhone tutorials on his website. If you need to know anything more about that, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to tell you about this. Thank you for coming. And next time I'll try better time management.